The blue color, which is kind of rare, is a high sulfur. Blue stuff is typically used in like stove oil. Stove oil is a high sulfur, and it tends to be blue. And high sulfur is not really allowed on roads anymore, and it's actually pretty hard to find. So you're not going to find that very often.
What would you need it for?
Sulfur is the lubrication in your engine. The sulfur is what lubricates the valves, and so running a high sulfur fuel helps lubricate the upper end of your cylinders and your valves. But it also causes a lot of emission problems, and that's why they're trying to regulate it off the market. Their environmentalists are trying to get rid of it altogether. And the sooner they get rid of it, the more they'll be happy, because it's an emissions thing. So that's why you can't find it very readily, but it is used in stove oil. Biggest difference is just color, cost, which is taxes. The other two types, you got on and off road. The other two types is winter and summer blend. Winter blend is #1 fuel. Winter blend is a lighter fuel. You can think of it as diluted. They add additives to it to thin it out, and because it's a lighter fuel and thinned out, it's going to have a lot less energy. So if you run #1 diesel fuel all summer long, your fuel efficiency is going to be very low, and the temperature of your engine will run higher. And so it's going to be harder on your piece of equipment, plus it takes a lot more fuel to get the same amount of work done. So you would not want to run #1 fuel all year round. So as a convenience, you're like, I just want to run #1. You wouldn't want to do that. You want to run it when the temperature is cold. When the temperature warms up, switch back over to #2. If you're making a management decision and you've got a 1,000-gallon tank and it's running pretty low in November, you probably wouldn't want to go filling that tank all the way up unless you're going to be burning 1,000 gallons in the course of the winter. You'd be better off just going downtown and getting some fuel for the few operations that you have, or buying an additive which you can actually add to #2 to make it #1. #2 is a summer blend. It's a lot heavier. The problem with it is in the wintertime it gels up. Has anybody ever seen diesel fuel that's gelled? What does it look like?
I haven't seen it gel up. I haven't seen it.
You've experienced it? What it does, it gels up, but if you actually had a jar of it and you looked at it and our freezer is broke, so otherwise it'd stick some in the freezer, what it looks like is snow crystals. If you put it in a jar and you stuck it in the freezer and it gels up, what happens is the paraffin wax that's in the diesel fuel crystallizes, and it'll look like a snowflake when you look at it. So all these little snowflakes, they go down your fuel line, and when they get to the fuel filter, they plug up your fuel filter. And so all the wax stays in the filter, and then the lighter fuel that's in there goes on to your fuel system. But in a short period of time, your filter plugs up and your engine shuts off because it starves for fuel, and you get stranded. The only way to fix it is to warm it up. So if you can drag that piece of equipment into a warm shop or just wait till the temperature climbs up, it'll all turn back into a liquid and it will pass through. So if you've got a machine that has #2 fuel in it, you need to use it for snow removal in the winter or do something. What you need to do is add an additive to thin it out or get it nice and warm so that it thins it down. The difference here is the heaviness of the fuel. And your fuel economy will go down in the winter and it will come back up in the summer because of the heavy fuel. Looking at gasoline and what makes up gasoline. Gasoline is made up of hydrocarbon and carbon compounds. When you burn gasoline, it combines with the oxygen that comes through your air filter. It produces energy, which is what makes your car go. Water and carbon monoxide. That's why when you drive in through town and you see a car that pulls away from a stop sign, water pours out of the tailpipe. It's because it's one of the byproducts from gasoline. It's water. And the other one is carbon monoxide, which we talked about in our safety section earlier. Noxious oxides is formed when the combustion temperatures are above 2,500. Gasoline engines run really hot. And since they run really hot and they're above this temperature, you see a lot of noxious oxide, which is why we have catalytic converters and all these environmental things trying to reduce that.